Alright, what is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. This week's episode of The Flash, Season 9, Episode 3, titled Rogues of War, saw Barry assemble our team-up of meme-worthy rogues in order to beat Red Death's new team-up of rogues to the final piece of the Time Machine puzzle. Most of this episode could really be looked at as setup for the final 10 minutes, where most of the real important stuff happened, which of course will lead into the big two-part finale for this season's first graphic novel, titled Mask of the Red Death Parts 1 and 2. So before diving into all of the details, of course I've got to give a spoiler warning here for episode 3 of The Flash's final season, but with that out of the way, let's just vibrate to the proper frequency and get right into this breakdown. As I stated previously, not a whole lot happened in this episode outside of really the last quarter of it, which unfortunately I wasn't the biggest fan of. To be completely honest, for the majority of this episode, I was kind of sitting there rolling my eyes, chuckling a little bit at the meme team of Goldface, The Hotness, Pied Piper, and Chillblaine when they had some funny quips here and there, but aside from that, I was sadly quite disappointed with the episode for the most part. Now, I try to keep this channel as positive as I can, but also as honest as I can, and honestly, I just haven't been the biggest fan of the first few episodes here of Season 9 outside of the Red Death stuff. Without the Red Death storyline, I'm not really sure how I'd be getting through a lot of what we've seen so far. There's also been some discussion that there feels like there's a missing storyline this season, or an element of the show is just absent, and that's why it felt a little off from these first few episodes, and I can totally see where this argument is coming from. It's maybe the fact that we just haven't seen enough of Red Death and the Rogues, as they've just kind of popped in for a few minutes per episode and then dipped out. So with this video, I just wanted to give a quick recap of the episode and then jump right over to the Red Death setup from the end of the episode and theorize on her motivations and plans carrying into the final 2 episodes of this graphic novel. Things kick off with the new rogues stealing another piece of tech for Red Death, which Barry then is able to put together that she is in fact building a time machine in the form of a cosmic treadmill. With this knowledge now, Barry assembles our team of past, somewhat reformed rogues in order to steal the final piece of the time machine before Red Death's team can get to it. And for the most part, that's really the extent of the story of episode 3. Obviously, there's some back and forth between Barry and the Rogues about trust, which eventually leads to him revealing his identity before the heist, which I'm sure we all saw coming, since that's kind of just what Barry does to get people to trust him. Revealing himself as the Flash, that'll do the trick. Outside of Barry and the meme team, Iris and the rest of Team Flash look for a connection between the new rogues, which leads them to discovering that their weapons are all tied to Gotham City and Wayne Tech. This, of course, all tying into our reveal of who is in the Red Death's armor at the end of the episode. When it's time for the heist to go down, all seems to be proceeding as planned until we get Chillblaine flipping on Barry, revealing he is actually working for the new Rogues and Red Death, siding with someone who will really help him bring Frost back. And a quick aside here, my thoughts on the new character going by Keone. She's not Caitlin, she's not Frost, but someone completely new. I think she's a pretty interesting addition to Team Flash so far, and definitely reminds me a lot of Danielle Panabaker's character from Sky High, who is kind of a discount Poison Ivy. However, here she seems to just be really in tune with nature and the elements, and of course will be a key component going forward and defeating whatever the ultimate threat of the season ends up being. But I definitely don't think we can end the show with her as the main personality, since Caitlin is an original Team Flash member here literally from day one. I'm almost 100% certain that before the season is over, Keone will somehow give control back over to Caitlin. Whether she is Caitlin, Keone, and Frost all sharing one body, or Caitlin just comes back and that's it, I'm not quite sure, but I just don't see the show ending with Caitlin Snow staying dead. Anyway, after Chillblain's betrayal, Red Death makes herself known to Barry, running out in the open, showing her connection to the negative Speed Force and claiming her final time machine component. I think she does look quite cool in action with the lightning emanating from the armor. The voice does sound pretty menacing as well, and all around does have quite the imposing presence as an evil speedster. Just wish we saw Red Death do some more deathing, you know? Back at Star Labs, Barry and Iris, along with the raid team, discuss the encounter with Red Death and question if she could be the new avatar of the negative Speed Force, but I'm pretty sure that will all be saved for later in the season, again with that blue crystal. But the final thing with Team Flash, we get some more from the Gotham investigation with a shout out to Luke Fox, who confirmed that the Rogue's weapons are in fact Wayne Tech, as well as Batwoman or Ryan Wilder has recently gone missing. This brings us to the final stinger of the episode, where we have the Rogues back in the warehouse hideouts, and Red Death gives us the classic villain unmasking. Shows us that she is in fact a version of Ryan Wilder, complete with this random gray streak in her hair, and does her best Robert Pattinson impression, saying, "I am vengeance." Definitely wasn't expecting that line, but I've got to be honest, it was pretty cool to hear, even if it was sans speedster modulation and glowing red eyes. With that, let's transition into theory territory and try and come up with a good idea as to who this version of Ryan Wilder is, where did she come from, what is her ultimate plan here with the time machine, and what is her issue with the Flash. Going into this season, when we got our first trailers and set pictures that revealed that Red Death would be played by Javicia Leslie and would be some version of Ryan Wilder, potentially corrupted by the negative Speed Force, my first thought was that she could be from some dark future timeline. A future in which something went horribly wrong, she tapped into the negative Speed Force and became Red Death. She then somehow found herself back in present day with a vendetta against the Flash, along with her trying to build a time machine, possibly to reverse whatever the events were that led her down the dark path of Red Death in the first place. Not a bad theory, but after a lot of thought, I'm not super sold on this being the case anymore. I've seen a lot of people talk about how this could somehow tie back into Reverse Flashpoint, which we saw back during the Armageddon event at the beginning of Season 8. There we went to a dark future, one where Thawne had altered the timeline to make himself the Flash and Barry the Reverse Flash. In this timeline, Ryan Wilder was also close friends with Iris and the rest of Team Flash, but that Iris connection may be the important thing to remember. During that part of the Armageddon event, Ryan was talking to Iris about how her life in Gotham was going great and her and Sophie were potentially going to adopt a child, but also gave Iris the Velocity Zero gun, a weapon designed by Luke Fox in order to stop a quote certain lady in red within that timeline, potentially that timeline's Red Death or the speedster Ryan ended up merging with to become the Red Death. Now, what if Barry coming in and reverting the changes made in the Reverse Flashpoint timeline caused some sort of shakeup in the life of that version of Ryan Wilder, which eventually led her down the path of becoming Red Death? This would explain the little gray streak in her hair, as she is of course an older version of the character, and would also tie into the time machine as well. She may be making this cosmic treadmill to try and revert the changes Barry made, which effectively erased her timeline when he reset Reverse Flashpoint. That could also explain why Red Death had to stabilize herself to the frequency of this timeline at the end of episode 2. If this is the case, I do think this Reverse Flashpoint corrupted version of Ryan may have also captured our main timeline Batwoman as well, to maybe get her out of the way or even try and turn her against Barry. But I'm sure she will eventually team up with Barry and Team Flash to fight this version of herself corrupted by the negative Speed Force. And now there's really only one final piece of the puzzle missing. If she's the Ryan Wilder from the Dark Future timeline of Reverse Flashpoint, how does she gain her connection to the negative Speed Force? If this isn't related to the quote lady in red mentioned earlier, I feel like the Red Death armor may really be the key here. She might have found a way to connect her suit to the negative Speed Force, similar to how Savitar used his suit to amplify his powers. Putting it all together, we have the Reverse Flashpoint Ryan Wilder, who has traveled back to present day in order to enact revenge on the Flash for erasing her timeline and restore the life that she felt was taken away from her by Barry Allen. Is this the route the show will take us? Maybe, maybe not, but that's just my theory here, piecing together a few different things from the hints we've been given, as well as expanding on some of the theories I've heard others in the DC TV space discuss in various videos and streams recently. Shout out Paigey and Eric. Overall, guys, I'm really rooting for this season of The Flash to be something special. While it's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start, I feel like it is finally really starting to pick up here and hopefully starting to move in an exciting direction. I'm definitely intrigued by all of the mysteries surrounding Red Death, and if nothing else, just happy to have Javicia Leslie back here not only as Ryan Wilder, but as Red Death as well. We also got the announcement of the return of Teddy Sears Zoom towards the end of the season, which is incredible, but not the only returning villain around the finale. I know Eric Wallace has talked about trying to bring him back for a while, and I'm glad we will actually get to see that come into fruition. It was announced that we will be seeing Jay Garrick at least one final time this season as well. Always a great treat to get John Wesley Shipp back in the Arrowverse in any capacity. It also appears that all of our theories and speculations surrounding Cobalt Blue have been answered. Thanks to some legendary set pictures from Canadagraphs, we now know that we will in fact be seeing Rick Cosnett suited up as Cobalt Blue, looking very comic book accurate in some capacity at the tail end of this season, seemingly as a part of a whole team-up of evil speedsters from the show's past, which is super exciting. The series finale is shaping up to be quite the jam-packed return of many characters, heroes, and villains alike from seasons past, with the team-up of Reverse Flash, Zoom, Savitar, Godspeed, and of course Cobalt Blue, all facing off against the Flash. Looks like Barry will really have to level up to defeat them all. So with that said, guys, I want to know your thoughts on everything we went over. Did you like this week's episode? How did you feel about the Red Death reveal? What are your theories as to what her evil plans truly are? And what is the hype level for the finale now that we know more of what to expect? I want to know your thoughts on all of this down there in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.